This is Classic FM.
Hello and welcome once again to Classic FM, and we've talked to all sorts of different people over the last few weeks, from Gareth Malone, who's starting a new choir, to composers, but I don't think I've spoken to a poet, not just a poet, a children's poet laureate. Michael Rosen, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you here. Can I start by talking about the thing that's coming up this weekend, which
Yes.
is the important thing, because I know it's about music, but it's also about you narrating and you know, obviously poetry involved in that. The Great Enormo is the Brighton Festival. Explain what it is.
Well, what we're trying to do is, if you like, introduce young people to the orchestra, but do it in a fun and extraordinary and amazing way. So I've written a loose story. The idea is there's a character called Mr. Enormo Biggins who runs the most amazing theme park there ever has been, because you can time travel in it, but it needs a theme tune. And so Mr. Enormo Biggins, who runs the Great Enormo theme park, has commissioned me to write the theme tune, but I haven't done it yet. So I've got to pull it together next Saturday at 5 o'clock in the Brighton Dome. So I've got to pull it together with
with everyone there.
With the City of London Symphonia. Yes, we've got to pull it together, and I'm narrating it. My granddaughter's very, very worried because she doesn't know whether she's going to get a free ticket or not to go to see it. And I'm worried because Mr. Enormo Biggins has said that if we don't finish it, he'll throw me off the Great Enormo Tower.
This is shades of Rossini here. You
Yeah,
do
well,
everything
of
at
course.
the last minute, you know.
Everything's at the last minute, so we've actually got to pull it together on Saturday.
Now, it's a kerfuffle with orchestra and wasps. Where do the wasps come in?
Well, yes, indeed. No, the alien killer wasps are actually quite dangerous
So they're not-
wasps.
you wouldn't want to meet those down a dark alley.
No. So the best place to be in the time-travelling scheme of things is to be up in the air in a rocket. The audience will be the wasps. They will get cued, bzzz, bzzz, because they're coming after me in the rocket at that particular moment.
Ray guns to me.
There was a cue.
Sorry, I just wondered.
It wasn't ray guns.
Okay,
it was
fine.
me.
Just
that was
checking. In case
No, of
you
course,
needed to bring your phaser with you.
We've got no guns.
Okay,
We've got no
fine,
guns.
right.
No. We do go Wild West at one point, and we do go to Manhattan, where we do a kind of rap thing. So yeah, we go to various places.
And this is all in the Brighton Dome.
It is. That's right.
It's quite impressive what you can do with time travel.
Well, it is. Well, we'll be time travelling, the musicians will be time travelling, and we'll meet people. We'll meet the oboe player and the contrabassoon player and, the viola player, who's very keen to show us what the viola can do. So, yeah.
What I love about your work, when I'm reading bits and pieces and I'm looking at the pictures and the illustrations, is how much I giggle and laugh. And I'm probably not in the target market to a certain extent because I'm not a child, but there is a child in all of us that you seem to somehow get to.
Well, I often think that children's books, they are actually a way of writing for everyone. I mean, I suppose if you want to give Disney some credit, is that he invented the notion of family entertainment, or he rediscovered it. Because there had been the idea that you have children's stuff and then you have adult stuff. But what Disney did was he realised that in fact children are taken to places by adults. And in a way, that's interested me most of my life, to write about things that intrigue and interest both adults and children at the same time. It's a way for them to have a conversation.
It sounds to me, though, that you must pick up obvious skills there. For example, you started talking about the Great Enormo, and I thought, right, that makes sense to me. But immediately you brought in the alien killer bees and all the things that my interest was piqued. So are there a number of things, do you think, well, hang on a minute, this won't work unless I add in 2 or 3 different elements here, reaching out to different parts of the audience?
Always. You always have to think, well, what would this person find funny? What would that person find funny? And I mean, people who work for sort of in children's literature and so on, they have different ways of doing it. Some people, they kind of channel their younger selves. That's one way of doing it. What did I like? What did I find funny? What made me sad? And so on. And other people, they might be parents or they might be teachers. So you have a way of putting the child inside you, but you can't only put the child. You also have to put the parent, the grandparent, the uncle, the auntie, the teacher. You have to put them inside you as well in the situation in which they're with each other. So there's a situation in the Brighton Dome. There will be adults and children. There will be adults helping children do funny things. And at the same time, there'll be children getting their mums and dads who are a bit shy to do things. You know, come on, mum, you can be a killer wasp as well. You know what I mean? And we worked in rehearsal yesterday with a class of children from New Cross. And it was fascinating to see how quickly they created new stuff while we were doing it. So we have this time-travelling train. Obviously you have to get on a time-travelling train to go between the different places, obviously. And the moment the music played, they were suddenly chuffing and swaying and doing stuff. And their movements, I just suddenly thought, Well, that's wonderful. We're going to have a whole audience full of people. You know, I'm not a great mover, but there will be people in the audience doing that stuff.
And doing things.
Yeah.
Because, funny you said that. Yesterday I was wandering along the street and there was a family in front of me, so I couldn't get past, and there's the little ones there. And the young boy was humming a tune to himself and nodding his head like this, and he was completely off in some dream world of his making while he was walking along the street, noticing things. And that's something that's a great gift children have. And do you think we lose that as we get older, or is that just we cover it up a bit?
I think we get preoccupied. I think what happens is that children, if they've latched on to, I don't know, it might be X Factor, it might be a piece of music, it might be something, they then live in it. I mean, I've got an 8-year-old and he suddenly latches on to Queen, for example. He just loves several of the songs from Queen. And so you just hear him just chuntering away, doing Queen songs. And, no, I'm not going to stop him.
But then I guess he doesn't have the frame of reference we might have for Queen, so he'll bring in lots of other bits and pieces, which might surprise you. You think, oh, right, okay, that's how he sees it.
And then, of course, that's how parodies crop up, playground parodies, is they take, and, this has been forever, we were doing it with, I don't know, Roy Rogers and things like that. It dates me a bit, but there you go. Stuff off the top. Hop Along Cassidy, 1940s TV. You take the theme tunes and make up other songs, or you have Christmas carols and you play around with that. Well, that sort of spirit in children is very strong.
Yeah. We'll get to Hector's house in a minute. And
we
might even get right up to date for rhubarb or something. You never know.
Yeah.
Not quite.
In fact, we mentioned rhubarb in the show. We opened with rhubarb. Yes, that's right. Not that rhubarb, but I get them to... Anyway, we go rhubarb.
One of the other things I noticed is you do seem to do a lot of training for teachers on poetry and engaging children. And the question, I suppose, came to me is, do you find teachers are sometimes a little bit, poetry, kids, how do I approach that?
Yeah.
It seems to me you have a very natural, easy way of doing that, but perhaps they don't. I mean, is that something you find?
Yes, I think the problem is that there's a very strange kind of passing on of nervousness goes on about poetry. I mean, most people, when they think back to what it was like at school doing poetry, it was like a series of mild humiliations.
Torturous.
Yes.
It might be said, I'm sorry, but
sorry about that, teachers. But no, the thing is that quite often the teacher has to pretend that he or she knows more than they do. And then the children sit there going, I don't understand this, but the teacher does. So quite often the space around poetry is, I don't know. And this is completely the wrong way round. What poetry should be is the stuff that you can own, you can possess it, and you have total entitlement to interpret it and think about it in any way you want. So my first job, usually with teachers, is to show them how, if you ask children questions you don't know the answers to, this is the key thing. If you as a teacher ask children questions about a poem that you know the answers to, the game's over, you've smashed the poem. What you have to keep doing is asking questions you've got no idea, like, does this remind you of anything you've ever seen before? Does it remind you of anybody you've ever met? You can't know the answers to those questions. Or, hey, imagine after that poem something else happened that was linked to it. What might that be? So you get them all thinking, using what they've picked up from the poem to invent new things. Or you say, what might have happened just before the poem? Yeah, because poems are often little bits in the middle of a story.
Yeah.
Exactly. They are the moment. That is the key word. And so, think of what might have happened before. Think of what might happen after. Now, if you get into that frame of mind, suddenly poetry is just a delight.
And it goes back to what we were saying about children having that great invention.
Exactly.
To just
play to the invention.
Bring things in. So bring us back to Saturday.
Yes.
Greater Normo and the Killer Bees and the time travel and so on.
Yes.
There you are at the Brighton Dome.
Yes.
Saturday night, start of the festival, Brighton Festival, 3 weeks of it. I mean, what happens if you don't make it? There's a whole festival at risk.
I'm going to be thrown off the tower at the Greater Normo and I won't be able to do the other events. I'm very worried, of course.
So you're looking for people to come along and make sure
we finish it. Otherwise, Mr. Enormo Biggins, I mean, you can hear him. He's calling out. He's got a voice quite like Brian Blessed, amazingly. But you can hear him saying, is my theme tune ready? I mean, he's quite vicious, really. So I'm worried.
Well, I hope, therefore, you will be there to support. Michael, thank you very much for coming in.
Well, thank you.
And let's make sure he carries on with the rest of the Brighton Festival. It's a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.